that information. They edit the information so that it's legible, and then finally they share that information in a succinct way. And so what are some of the ways that you share or you hold your current notes for meetings? How do those get captured?
Well, we do have a floor-wide book, and we've had one since 1998. It has the minutes and documentation of everything that has been addressed. But I know different units sometimes have their own notebook of what they documented.
Yeah. So how do some of the units do that? Is that different than the process you just did? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, it's not much different. We just go, I like that we so simple. We just rotate minute takers and write on the agenda next to each item in the box. And that's right where we take notes. So we don't have to go back to our desk and then recreate activities that. We just do it right there until we get the book.
Cool. Other folks?
We store it online. We have a shared drive that we keep all our notes in.
Okay, so you have a shared drive that you keep all your notes in. And who inputs that stuff? Is that
typically our clerk, but we've been without one since October, so we've been rotating.
Okay, cool. So you rotate among individuals. And how does that work in terms of the rotation?
People kind of volunteered for the first time, and then we just continue that same cycle.
Okay. Cool. So that's the responsibility of the recorders to take good notes. Right? So let's move on to page 103. As you on your handout here. And so as you went through that stuff, was there anything in that checklist that you were like, oh yeah, that's something I could use, or that's what we do already. We do this, this, and this. What were some of those things that you saw that you already do? All right, so having a detailed agenda? Okay.
And there's a time, like 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. And how does it get cut off after, let's say, 10 minutes of discussion? How does that happen? Okay, who moves along? The supervisor, okay. Who convenes the meeting? He does, okay. And so he also drives the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. What does Chris used to do? Probably Chair. How used to do that? Been a couple of years. Or but if everybody saw the agenda and I don't know if it was up for your unit, but if you see the agenda and you see that you only have 10 minutes, you really didn't go over a whole lot because everybody knew what the expectation was.
Okay.
And I think that if you just go over on one thing, you overestimate the time on something else. So our meeting is never, I don't know that my unit meeting is ever done.
Here, when we had like a hot topic that people were really giving great feedback on, and it kind of having a life of its own, and it was a good discussion, we agreed to extend it longer for that specific topic that we felt that there was a need.
Other folks, as you look at that list, what are some things that you already do in your unit meetings? Yes, ma'am.
The minutes and expectations of who's going to do what is followed up on getting that done.
Okay.
That's been very helpful for those of us that are involved in lots of projects and stay on task and not drop the ball.
Okay. So that's been really helpful. So I have an action plan after the meeting.
Do you need help at all?
You need help in your unit meetings? Okay. That's why they called me. I'm the orchid man. 14 meetings.
You don't give any except for there's a person in charge of bringing treats and they
Priorities.
Yeah.
But there's no minutes, there's no clear, nothing.
Well, you know what that means.
What does that mean?
It means that there's an opportunity to make this stuff happen. Here is an open gate to make this stuff happen. All right? So Yeah.
Let them know next time when I'm on the agenda.
Yeah. Well, and
Don't have to bring an agenda. With your treats.
That's a grand opportunity, which means you have a clean slate. So, because one of the things in what unit are you in? What's your unit? Nicole? The DD? Okay. So one of the things that sometimes happens, and in HR we've tried to make sure that we're consistent about this, is that people will take a top-down approach where this is the supervisor and this is all of us. And they'll try to squish it down so it's a flat circular organization, but they forget one principle. So this is what typically ends up happening, that the supervisor becomes the center of the circle, and then we all kind of orbit around the supervisor, which ultimately ends up being the same as this system, where we're not really responsible or feel responsible for the group because we don't really have any responsibility. So one of the things that I might offer as a solution or a tool to increase people's, to get to the sweet spot where there's individual responsibility and group responsibility at a nice balance, is that we talk about the roles of the team in the team meeting, as opposed to the supervisor always being the facilitator, the supervisor always being the person who manages the agenda. And so, so then what happens is that your facilitator and your recorder, and I'll talk about this last piece here, which is the process observer's role. That those three roles get rotated between individuals so that one person is not always the convener. That one person's, and it sounds like you have part of that in your group, right? Where you rotate roles.
But an unspoken agenda, like we do the same thing every time. It's not written, but nobody takes minutes, and it's kind of like word of mouth about any information that got out, unless it's super important, then with an email.
Yeah.
But yes, it's way less formal than everybody else is talking about. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Big deal.
And there is a balance between being extremely formal. I mean, because how many people use Robert's Rules of Order in their team meetings? Right? Yeah, that's unheard of, right? So there's that part of that end of the spectrum of being a formal, and then it sounds like you guys are on the other end where it's just kind of a little looser than you feel comfortable with.
I like that it's not all written down like the agenda. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I find that it gets long and it's not as goal oriented. So that part is not only frustrating me, but probably everybody.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But I think people don't want it to be super rigid either. But there probably needs to be something.
There needs to be. You're right. And one of the things I was talking with. So I'm on the juvenile diversion board for North Star Boy Scout Council, because they do this, diversion from going to juvie or ending up in Lima Lakes or whatever. And so we were talking about how do we make the program so that it has a solid skeleton, but then that each group, each instructor can riff off their own stuff. And so, so one of the things that I shared with the group is that, I don't know, how many people have seen a jazz band before? Okay. Anybody seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, or been to one of those improv shows, right? So if I'm a jazz musician and there's a jazz band playing, I can pick up my instrument and join in and play jazz with them, no matter what they're playing. And to folks like us, or if I'm an improver, right, I can play any improv game that they're playing